And let's see, get it ready to mute over here. And folks, we're going to be going live here in just a second. Here, we are live, but
we are live.
We're going to be official here in just a second. I can mute everything.
We are live. Yes.
Second screen. Okay, folks. 3, 2, 1, and welcome into Drone Nation for August 28th, 2023. This is a night with Greg from Pilot Institute, where we're going to try to help you get ready for remote ID coming on 9/16. I want to throw a special show, take care of some business here. Next week is Labor Day in the U.S., and we won't have a Drone Nation next Monday night, but we will return on the 11th with a very special show with Mike Wright, John Coopy. They will do a Minefield 2023 overview and recap show. So don't miss that one. Mike's preparing notes and videos and stuff not right for this hour, but as we speak. So, okay, let's get into the show here. And we want to welcome in our special guest host, Mike Wright, and our guest star, Greg from Pilot Institute. So we're going to run around the panel and check in to see how everybody's doing. So we'll go clockwise, and we'll go to Marcus first. Idaho Quadcopter. Marcus, how are you tonight?
Thank you, Ron. Hold it. As you can see, I just finished rendering a video, so I better get out of that because it's going to make a bunch of noise. But what I've been doing is doing some flying. So I got out and the folks at Freewell sent me some filters for the Air 3. So I got some pretty good motion blur with those filters, did a nice video with that. And then I was able to do a Billy Kyle style, put that ND1000 on there. And by the way, I was texting with Billy at the time. He was giving me instructions on how to do it to get that super motion blur. When you have traffic, it looks like they're going 100 miles an hour, and it worked pretty good.
What did he say, Marcus? Just really quick, what did he say?
Well, his original instructions were to slow the shutter speed down to 1 second. I couldn't. I think he probably does that with the Mavic 3 Cine. The Air 3, I could only get down to 1/3 of a second shutter speed. And I think I was 200 ISO. In any case, it still worked well and looked pretty good. So that was a lot of fun. And then we had a huge lightning storm here a couple nights ago. So about 11:30 at night, I ran outside. I slapped my strobe on the Mavic 3 Pro and sent it up, and got some really cool video of an amazing lightning storm. And I think that video is hitting about, I just posted it yesterday, and it's hitting about 15,000 views now. So people
and one of our one of our most loyal supporters here, Richard, sent a nice email. I don't know if he sent to you. He really complimented Marcus's video and the soundtrack. He thought it was the best video Marcus has ever made.
Well, yeah, I put the Ride of the Valkyries to all that lightning. So that's yeah. But in any case, and then yesterday I got out, and I've been doing some tracking videos with the Air 3, with the Mavic 3, and comparing them with the Skydio 2. But this time I took the Mini 3 Pro out, and predictable results. It tracks great until you're obscured by something, and then it loses you. But still had fun. It's always fun to fly. That's what I say. Anyway, that's what I've been doing, and it's still hot.
Oh yeah. What was your temperature today?
Today was 97 degrees.
97. Okay. Yeah. I think you got Mike beat today.
It felt great today. Today got down to 97. The first time in only 3 days, the last 35 days on a 97. It's been over 100
jacket out, Mike? So you get the jacket out?
Not quite, but at least I'm going to be able to get out and fly tomorrow.
Good.
It's been 108 degrees. It's not fun flying in.
Wow. So everything else is good, Mike?
Everything's great. Had a great time in Minefield and got to visit with DeMarco there on the way back. And after DeMarco, you don't know, I went and flew with Lloyd. Finally got to meet him.
Wow.
And that was great. Had a nice flight with him. Nice lunch, and went to his local park.
Oh, good.
Wow. Yeah, nice.
He didn't take you to a nice lake like I did, Mike, though. Come on.
No lake. It was a There was a what was they called it? There's a city park had a little dry, wet area basically that wasn't running in the park.
Yeah, it's Oklahoma. They don't have any lakes.
Yeah. No, they got some nice lakes there in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, that's great, Mike. It's great you got to travel around and meet a few people. So no, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I felt great. Again, I really enjoyed the visit with the DeMarco as well. So.
Yeah.
Likewise.
I got an autograph too. And moving on to Greg. Greg, welcome back to the show. How you been? How's everything going in your life? What's your temperature in Arizona today?
Upper 80s. I was in the office all day on the computer, so I didn't really get to go outside much. But yeah, upper 80s. It's been about normal temperatures for the season, but we're at 5,000 feet elevation, so it's always a bit cooler up here. The valley was in 100 and plus, which I don't know how people live down there, but the valley being Phoenix, Phoenix being pretty close to us. We call it the valley because we're high up. But yeah, no, everything is good here. We've been busy with remote ID. Quite frankly, we've been putting out recording videos. We're editing some videos right now that we'll put out next week and or later this week as well. And then we did a survey this morning. I'm trying to get a pulse on how ready people are for remote ID. And if you don't mind, I'm going to put the survey. It takes about 45 seconds for people to fill out, but we're trying to get as much response from as diverse of a community as possible. And it's literally 3 questions trying to figure out, if people need to have a module, and if they do, if they've ordered one, and if they did, is it here yet or is it not? So we have, last I checked before I left work, we had about 1,400 responses, and that's only from today. And I'd like to get a lot more than that. Over 1,400 now, just to make sure that we have a good sample of what the community is doing right now with remote ID. We're hoping that we can share some of that data with the FAA to let them know, hey, something is going on with remote ID. You better be paying attention here. So, that's kind of the goal at this stage with this.
That's going to be an interesting poll.
Answered that survey already.
Yeah.
Yep.
DeMarco, what's going on with you outside of hosting famous celebrities in your office?
No, it was good to have Mike. We chatted Monday night after the show, and then next morning we woke up and flew and had breakfast together. It was good to see him. Thanks for swinging by, Michael.
Sure,
Appreciate
no
it.
problem. I enjoyed it.
Marco, have you been flying? flying drones. This is a drone show.
Yes, I have the Mavic 3, and not as much as you get to fly, but we're in the midst of fall sports season though. So we just got home from flag football practice. But yes, I have been flying a Mavic 3. Nothing exciting, but
That is a beautiful Mavic 3 you've got too.
It is. It's handsome too. And since a couple of people have already said this, so we are wearing mostly blue shirts tonight. So
yeah,
it wasn't planned at all.
Blue shirt.
Anyway, what about you, Ron?
Well, you've been flying the Air 3 a lot, basically flying it every day, just trying to learn all the features. And so far, I really like the drone, really like the camera, all positives. I got my Start RC sent me a hard case days. Now I have a hard case to put it in, get it out of that soft case. So, doing better.
The same one Johnny got, or?
So yeah, same one Johnny got, the deluxe one with can hold 6 batteries and everything. So yeah. I'll have a video up on it soon on my channel, folks. So okay, let's get right into this show tonight here. I do have in the notes here, I have a link for Greg's YouTube channel. And Greg, we always do a DroneNation Deal of the Day on this show, where we usually try to save people money on a drone or a drone accessory or something related to drones. But we kind of, we got a real good one tonight. The first one we've ever done anything like this. A guy we know has a 2-for-1 bundle, a Part 107 Made Easy, plus Drone Maneuvers Mastery, which regularly sells for $249. But there is a summer sale running right now that allows you to get this for only $159 plus tax. I mean, that sounds like a tremendous deal. And I wonder if somebody in the panel may know how long the summer sale is going to run on that course.
This one, we haven't decided when we're going to end it, actually. So it's going to be running for quite a while. We try to keep the courses on sale as much as possible to keep it affordable for people. So that's the reason why it's going on right now.
And just to make clear, this would be a good course for anybody interested in getting their Part 107 commercial license, correct?
Yep, that's correct. That's
you
that's
get
our
all
big...
the information you need to pass the test.
Yep, and much more. It's 15 hours long, and we're getting close to 80,000 people trained with this course right here. So it's a popular course, and it gets the job done for sure.
I've got a question for Greg in that same vein. So I want to take a trip up to Canada. So I've been studying for my Canadian basic test. Do you guys have any kind of coursework in that regard?
Nope, not at the moment. The Canadian one is a bit tricky. There's 2 different tests, and the second test requires in-person training. Right. And we've looked into it before. We need to find a good partner that we can partner with to do the in-person training, and we haven't really identified anyone at this stage. But I think eventually we will get into this. But for right now, we've been so busy with the U.S. market, we haven't really looked outside of the U.S.
Well, secondly, in that vein, I've got a friend up in Canada that's talking about coming down here, and he asked me to ask you if you had any suggestions for him. Now, of course, I think he'll probably I'm assuming he'll just need the trust test, but
if he's flying for fun, that would be the trust exam. It's free. We do it on our website, trust.pilotinstitute.com. We're one of a dozen that are allowed to give the test. And then they should be good to fly after that. Registering the drone if it's over 250 grams. And of course, if they're coming after September 16, it's going to need remote ID as well. So
remote ID, yeah.
And I just want to point out, Maddie's drone world posted the remote ID survey for Greg in the chat. So everybody get over there and take that when you get a chance.
But before I lose that thought, you just made me think of something else, Greg, when you were saying that. We've got, we do the Florida, we all go to the Florida meetup every year with Ray Kelly. And I've got a couple friends coming over from Europe this year. And they have DJI drones that would be remote ID compatible here. I walked them through the registration process, and I had them go to your site for the trust test, etc. But because they bought their drones in Europe, will they still have the remote ID software and stuff in them?
Yeah, it should be in there. DJI, I think, has a system to turn it on or off depending on which country you're flying in. But yeah, if they bought it in Europe, it should still have the same firmware and the same ability to broadcast remote ID. And of course, Europe has something similar with remote ID that we have in the US. I think it's slightly different technology, but it's mostly the same. It's slightly different message, but it's the same technology. So it would be fairly easy for them to do that. I know Japan has remote ID as well. And I'm sure I heard that Canada, I think, is working towards something with remote ID as well.
Yeah, and my thought was just once we get remote ID active, I'll walk them through registering their drones correctly with the right. Mm-hmm. All that stuff.
Yep.
So, yeah,
absolutely.
Good. Okay, we want to start. We're going to hit Greg up with some questions, concerning remote ID and modules and the whole 9 yards. We're going to start simple though. Greg, which drones will require remote ID on 9/16/2023?
So that's going to depend on the type of flying that you're doing. So if you plan on flying for recreational purposes, all drones that are of over 250 grams, 0.55 pounds, will need to have remote ID. If you're flying under Part 107, it's going to be any drone under 55 pounds. So that covers also the smaller drones. So for example, if you have a DJI Mini 2 or Mini 3 or Mini 1, and you're flying it for Part 107, it needs remote ID. But if you're flying it for recreational purposes, then it does not need. Essentially, you got to think about it as if it needs registration, it needs remote ID. That's an easy way to remember.
That is a good way. Yeah. Thank you. This is a question I get asked a lot. There are rumors out there on the web that suggest that remote ID could possibly be delayed until December or even longer. Can we put any stock in these rumors at all?
Not yet.
But lost you, Greg.
We lost you, Greg. No,
Oh, yeah, right.
nothing.
Nothing. No.
Silencio.
Mike can answer that question. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Mark.
That is very,
Wow.
very muffled.
Yeah, muffled. You're back, but you're muffled.
Muffled.
Real muffled.
There you go.
There
Should
you
be
go.
better.
Perfect.
Yes.
Much better.
I was messing around with it and then I unplugged it. So so what was I saying? Oh yeah, the FA.
The rumors of it being the remote ID being delayed.
Yeah, so the FA I think is strongly considering delaying remote ID, but we haven't had a final decision yet. So I'm not going to say the rumor is incorrect because I do think there's a potential that they will. They did when the manufacturers could not get on board last year because they had a mandate last year of September 16. They will not delay implementation because they cannot do that. Only Congress can do that, but they can delay enforcement. And so I really, really hope if anybody from the FA is listening, and I've been telling as many of my contacts at the FA as possible, and I know other people have as well, they need to absolutely delay remote ID enforcement to at least December. Based on the research that we've done on modules, a lot of them are not currently available, or if they are, they will take the money, but they can't ship. I don't think they'll be able to ship on time. And so I just think that there needs to be pushed, and it's not because of the community, it's because of manufacturers, and I just don't think the supply chain is there.
Good. Well, that leads us to the next question then. Are affordable remote ID modules now available to purchase for in the U.S.? I mean, we heard that $50 and under modules be available at some point, and I believe we chatted, Greg, that you had a chance to test some of the latest modules out.
Yep. Yeah, we tested 6 of them. We are supposed to be getting 2 more. We did record our video on Friday of last week. We're hoping that video will go live on Wednesday or Thursday of this week, so in a few days. We divided them into 2 different categories because there are 2 different types of modules. There's the self-contained, fully ready, hit the ground running kind of modules that have a GPS chip, that have power. All you have to do is turn them on, and then it goes, it starts to broadcast. And then there's those modules that you can plug into an FPV drone or a foamy that's going to get information from the actual drone itself, or maybe get power from the drone in itself, and then start to broadcast. So we divided them into 2 different categories because I think there's going to be 2 different type of people that need modules, right? The people that tinker with drones and the ones that don't. And for those that don't want to mess with soldering or plugging in cables, these modules are not cheap. The cheapest I think is $100. I have to look at my notes, but $160 I think is the cheapest standalone drone that we could find, which is way too much money if you ask me. Ron, you said $50. That was my hope from day one, that we were going to be able to see modules under $50. And unfortunately, there's no such thing. Even the modules that need to be plugged in with additional power, I think the cheapest one we've seen is $69. That one just came out on Friday of last week. We had recorded our video already, and that one is going to need power. So you need to add another maybe $10 or $20 on top of it to get power, and that's going to be not lightweight at all to put on your drone. So I'm a bit disappointed with the technology that's come out of this whole thing. The pricing is out of control, I believe, and yeah, well, it's just not good. There's just no single good option that I can say, go buy this one. It's ready to go. It's got everything in it, and it's cheap. There's just no such thing.
Do you have any with you, Greg?
We made the analogy before, like if you fly, say, $100 toy drone, right? That needs remote ID, and who's going to stick a $150 module on a $100 toy drone?
Nope, makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. I 100% agree.
DeMarco, did you have something?
Can we see one, Greg?
I
Do you
don't
one
have
here
them
yet
with
at
me
all, or?
now because I'm at home. If you go
Oh,
back,
okay.
we just did a live event this afternoon. If you go back, I show a bunch of them
Mhm.
that we tested. We tested several things for them. We tested the how far you can actually pick them up using different types of devices. We used different cell phones with different apps. One of them, I can tell you, went a mile away. We have a beyond visual line of sight waiver that we use for that, and we were able to fly a mile away and still be able to get the signal. There was another one that we tested that went 300 feet and we lost it, and that one was not cheap. It was over $200, and that we tested with different devices, and it just wasn't be able to pick it up. So for those that want to stay inconspicuous, I would say this is probably a good option because it's not going to broadcast very far. For those that are looking for great performance, the one that we tested that went a mile is going to be a great platform. That's the DB120, and that was the cheapest on our list, if I remember. I think it's $160. I have to go back and look at my notes, so don't quote me on the price. But that's going to be, yeah, that's kind of our results so far.
One of our questions here, a pre-question I got from Richard, who I'm not seeing if I see him in the chat yet, but he was asking, is it true that there is no minimum remote ID module power output?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So that means that we were kind of saying this before. If you had a lower power remote ID module, you would not be able to detect it from that far away. That's
correct. And so I think it's all based on a standard from ASTM. I think ASTM has a there's one requirement. I would have to go back and see exactly what that number is, but it's not really powerful, and it would mean that it's not broadcasting very far. But yeah, the FAA did not really put a number in there. They just said it needs to be broadcasting. So
interesting.
Well, Greg, I have ordered the Spectrum $69 one.
Yep.
And again, it's not supposed to be shipped till the 19th September. My question is, I've sent it off to him. I haven't got a response just this afternoon. Was how is it going to detect the pilot's location? I understand I need to add a battery. It's a 14 grams. It's not that heavy.
Yep.
And I could put a small 3.5 volt battery, very small, with a cage, this very small, lightweight cage. So I'm thinking I can do it under 20 grams. But my question is, how is it going to locate the pilot?
So
they haven't responded yet.
So I'll give you the answer. Modules do not have to broadcast the location of the pilot. They only have to broadcast the takeoff location. And so what's going to happen is that your module is going to record the takeoff location when you turn it on. And then when you start flying, it's only going to be broadcasting that location. It's not updating because it doesn't know where you are on the ground. So if you take off and you walk, 100 feet or 200 feet or a mile away from that location, then that's the only thing it's going to be broadcasting, along with the location of the drone, of course. But yeah, modules, that's the difference between modules and standard remote ID. So standard remote ID, what comes with a DJI brand new drone or a brand new Autel, that's standard remote ID. That broadcasts the location of the pilot and the location of the drone. That's the difference in message between the two technology.
Okay, well, my intent is I want to bring up my old 350QX Chroma to spin up. And I need it for that. So I'm going to try. I haven't flown it in several years, but that's my intent.
Greg, what other restrictions will there be with modules as opposed to standard remote ID, or are there any?
The only restriction that the FAA has put on is saying that if you have a module on your drone, you do not qualify for flying beyond visual line of sight, starting in September 16. So that's really the only restriction. For most people, it's not going to be a restriction because they're not going to be flying beyond visual line of sight.
Well, okay, so you just brought up the question. So if I have a drone with standard remote ID, I can go BVLOS?
No, it means you qualify to apply for a waiver to fly beyond visual line of sight. So I'll give you the example. We have a beyond visual line of sight waiver that we received from the FAA in a very specific location here in the middle of nowhere, Arizona, kind of in the high desert. And so we have the ability. We have an 11-mile corridor that we can fly in beyond visual line of sight, as long as we have a person following the drone in a car, and we designed it in that specific location because it's a very long road in the it's a dirt road in the middle of nowhere, and we have the ability to fly there, and we have a ton of good visibility. And there's one spot where we can be standing on top of it. It's a little mountain, and we stand on top of that, and then we can see forever. So the goal was for us to test beyond visual line of sight drones to see how far they actually go, but do it legally. And so we use that waiver, but in the future, if we use a module to meet remote ID requirements, then we would not be able to fly beyond visual line of sight. It's a bit interesting that the FAA put that as a limitation, but I think because it doesn't broadcast the location of the pilot, that's what they were worried about. I think it's not something that bad guys are going to be looking into anyway, which is what they're worried about. So
follow up on that. So you have to get a waiver. Will we ever get a Lance style approval to be able to fly? I'm not even saying BVLOS, but say extended visual line of sight.
That's what the FAA is working towards. And if you read, so the FAA is about to lose its authorization to be the FAA. So they have this thing called the FAA Reauthorization Act that happens every so many years, and we're about to get a new one here in September. And so they've submitted regulation. They submitted proposed. It's kind of a task list for the FAA for the next 5 years of what they have to do. And in that task list, the Congress is tasking the FAA to figure out beyond visual line of sight, hopefully including restricted visual or limited beyond visual line of sight, what we call EV loss, which is
extended visual line of sight.
Extended visual line of sight. Yeah. So I was on the committee with Vic Moss with the FAA to talk about this. We made some recommendations of what we're hoping the FAA will follow, but recommendations are just recommendations from the industry. At this stage, they can do whatever they want with it, decide to do it, or to just ignore us.
Understood.
Yeah. Hey, we kind of think we got a better idea of the not good availability of remote ID modules. But okay, where would and I'll ask Mike and Greg this question. Say I was looking for a remote ID module. Where would I go to shop for one? Is a particular place that has a good supply of them that I can order from? Like for instance, I order from Amazon. Can I go to Amazon and order a remote ID module on Amazon?
All the ones that we've purchased so far, we've purchased directly from the manufacturer's website.
Okay.
I don't think I've seen them on Amazon at this stage.
Okay.
But if you
would
wait
list
a few
some
more
different Pilot Institute of these where you can purchase these from.
Yeah, once we post our video this week, we'll have links to them in the description.
Good.
Quite frankly, there's been so much. We've been testing so many different modules. I don't even remember the name of all of them. I know DroneTag is one of them because we have 4 different modules from DroneTag. They're located in Europe. There's Pierce Aerospace, which is located in the US. And then I'm having a brain fart on the DB 120 and 121. I don't remember who makes them. It's Blue something. And I'm never good with names, but that's also another option, DB 120 and 121. And then there was one from Flight Test that unfortunately we had to send back because they are doing a firmware upgrade, and we sent it back at the wrong time because we didn't get it back on time to do the review. But we will be including information about it because I think that's actually a great option. It's made by a US company, just like Pierce Aerospace is, and I think it's a good contender for the price. It's not one of those that has a battery. It needs to be powered. So if you're flying FPV, it's going to be a great option. And I think the price tag is either $89 or $99, which is I hate to say it, on the cheaper side. It's not cheap, but it's on the cheaper side. And that's definitely a good option if you're flying FPV or if you want to add a little battery to it. It's not as cheap as the one that you mentioned, Mike, from Aerotech, from what's their name?
From
Spectrum, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, so Spectrum will go up. Their price goes up at the end of October. So right now it's an introductory price of 69, and I think it goes up to 99 after that. I think actually
Right.
flight test is 109. That's what
It is
Flight
109.
test- Yeah, flight test is 109. Yep.
Mike, did you order directly from the manufacturer?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Just because the flight test, I don't know when it's going to be out. I like Josh. I've met him several times, but
Right.
I don't know when it's going to be actually be available.
Right. So just his data alone here makes it sound like remote ID should be delayed just because people who are trying to get compliant are having trouble.
Yep. Somebody asked a question about the Holy Stone remote ID module. If we tested it, we actually did not. They refused to send us one, and we couldn't buy it on their website. So unfortunately, they're being excluded from the test. I find it funny from a company that's been trying to reach up to us for so many years now, trying to get us to review their drone. When we actually asked them to review their module, they refused to do it. So I'm going to give them 2 thumbs down on that, and I'm not really impressed with the way that they treated us.
If it's anything like their drones,
Yeah,
does it actually work?
Yeah. No one in the chat's buying their drones here.
And Greg, if anybody needs to be on top of remote ID, I'm sure Holy Stone doesn't even make any remote ID compliant drones, so they need a module.
They do. If you look on the website,
air.
look on the FAA website. They've got drones approved for remote ID already, Ron.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Do you have one, Marcus, or?
Have I got any Holy Stone drones? Yeah. Well, the
No,
one
I mean, doing
remote
remote ID compliant Holy
Approved, yeah.
Stone.
You know what? I'd have to look. I didn't pay any attention because I don't intend to fly them anymore. So
Yeah. Another follow up here. I saw a question in chat. I think Intel Maxwell Rotors asked a while ago, and it's one of Rich's questions too. Are there any modules being made for smaller drones? Intel Maxwell is saying he still flies a Paranafi, and he's worried that a module of a certain weight is going to throw off the ability of that drone to fly correctly.
No, all the drones that we've tested, the weight is going to be light enough to put on a mini-sized drone. So unless your drone is 100 grams, which I'm guessing you're not flying a 100-gram drone for Part 107, in which case you're flying it for fun, in which case you don't need remote ID. So no, I would not worry. If you have anything like a mini or a mini equivalent from a different brand, like the Parrot Anafi, it will definitely carry that with no problem.
Oh, good. Another question too: are these modules easy to install? Does it require technical skill? I think you kind of covered that early. If you're putting them in a home-built FPV drone, it does require skill. But if you're just putting one, well, say a Holy Stone, you're just slapping aside. That doesn't require any technical skills at all.
It doesn't. It's just like this little thing for my AirPods right here. Some of them are about this size, and then there's a button on the side. You're going to turn it on. It's going to give you a green light, and then you put it on top of the drone. You're ready to go. If you need to plug in
Velcro it on or something.
Say that again.
You just put Velcro on it to stick it to the drone, or okay.
Yep, just like your little light that you put to fly at night, same idea.
Yeah.
And then for those that need battery, they come with connectors that are pretty standard that you will recognize. So either you can do a permanent mount with the power, or you can put another little battery next to it with a connector. And then the only one that we tested that was a bit more difficult was the DroneTag DRI. That one, we tested it on Octozilla, which is our big octocopter that has a cube GPS, and it was way more advanced, and that took some configuration. The distance that we got out of it was not great, quite frankly, and definitely read the manual on that one. Even our guy that's been building, Don, has been building, drones for over a decade, and he even struggled with making sure that it worked correctly, and it didn't really go very far. But that's for people that are way advanced, and I don't think many people are going to be buying that.
So the modules do not come with their own battery. You have to supply a battery, an external battery for the modules.
Some do, some don't. So the 4 that I told you that we reviewed that are pretty expensive, over $100, these come with batteries. Typically, if you're going to see something under $100, it probably means it doesn't have battery. And some of them don't even have GPS in it. So it uses the GPS from the drone in itself. And those are for advanced drones that you tinker with.
Wow. So this is really kind of the Wild West here with these modules.
Yes,
Yeah.
it
Wow.
sure is.
Wow. Okay, switching off from modules here. And I've watched you've got a video you posted several months ago in this process, and I think I got it understood from the video, and maybe you can explain it, in again here. How do you re-register your current drones that do broadcast remote ID without the addition of a module? And is the process the same for drones that need a remote ID module to make it compliant, the re-registration?
So that's a great question. So let's put it this way. The drones that have remote ID in them already, if you go into the settings for most drone providers drone manufacturers we've seen, you go into the settings and there's going to be a line in there that's called remote ID serial number. Okay. You're going to take that number and then you're going to put it in the FAA drone zone registration form where it asks for remote ID serial number. So you find that remote ID serial number, you copy paste it into the field that's called remote ID serial number on the FAA drone zone, and you click save and you're done. So at the moment, the FAA is allowing people to edit registrations until the end of December for free. So if you have a remote ID approved drone and you haven't put that info into the drone zone, you can do it until the end of December for free by editing your registration. If you're doing a brand new registration, just do a new registration and fill out all the information, including that serial number, and then click save, pay your $5, and then you're good to go. But if you're editing, it's going to be free. After December, the FAA will charge $5 to edit that registration.
Okay. Yeah. So, in other words,
so
Thank you.
Yep. So make sure you do that. Now, as far as your remote ID module, it's the same concept. Your remote ID module, with it on it, there's going to be a sticker that has a remote ID serial number. And so when you register your drone, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing, because under Part 107, you're going to go and you're going to find your drone, right, that needs a module. You're going to click Edit Registration, and this is where you're going to put the registration, the serial number, the remote ID serial number from the module. So that's what makes that drone qualify for remote ID, is the fact that it has a module on top of it. So you're going to use that serial number from the module, and then you're going to put that in the registration for the drone, if that makes any sense. So that serial number from the module is going to be assigned to a specific registration number for your drone, that FA3 number that you have on your drone that you put on a sticker with your label maker or with the one that we send you for free. That serial number is going to be associated with that specific tail number, that specific registration number. Now, this is for Part 107, because under Part 107, the FAA wants every single drone to be registered individually with their own specific registration number, right? If you're a recreational pilot, you are only going to register that module once. You're going to put it, add it to your list, and that's going to make all the drone in your list compliant with remote ID, as long as that module sits on top of that drone when you fly it. So you'll be able to pick that module, put it on your Mavic 1 Pro, right? Your original Mavic Pro, you're going to put it on there. If you have an Inspire 1, you're going to put it on there the next flight. As long as you fly for recreational purposes, you'll be able to move that module around. If you fly under Part 107, you will not be able to do that unless you edit the registration every single time, which is going to cost you $5 after December. Before December, you'll be able to move those modules around, edit the registration with the FAA. They haven't found a better way to do it, unfortunately. I was told a long time ago that the FAA was going to make it free for people to move that module around, and that was not true. So I'm a bit sad and mad at the same time, because you're going to need to have a module for every single drone that you fly under Part 107, unless you want to pay $5 each time to re-register the drone. That's as simple as I can make it. Unfortunately, it's not simple.
Right.
Greg, I got a question on that. All my drones are registered under 107, but I want to register this Chroma as recreational. Do I need to set totally separate account?
Nope.
Or can I add recreational onto
You can.
My
So you can go on the
Oh.
FAA drone zone, and then you'll see there's two different sides. There's a Part 107 side, and there's a recreational side. So on the recreational side, you'll be able to pay $5 to get a registration number that you'll be able to put on every single drone that you fly for recreational purposes only. The ones that are flown recreationally only will get that number. If you fly a drone both for Part 107 and for recreational, just put the Part 107 registration number on it.
got it. Thank you.
Greg, okay, now say I go into my drone zone and I go to my drones or my list of my drones. If I get confused, is there a way for me to tell which ones I've updated with a remote ID number and which ones I haven't?
Stand by. I'll tell you in a second here. Let me log into mine because I don't remember.
Okay.
It tells you that which is remote ID and which isn't. I believe. I'm trying to remember.
I think there's a quick way to do it, but I'll tell you in a second here because I can log in quickly.
Because Ron, when you register, you either register it as a remote ID drone or not.
Well, what's dig into that, Mark, is okay. We purchased Air 3s recently, and of course, Air 3s are remote ID compliant, whatever. When we registered those drones, and I clicked, the first thing you clicked was, is it a remote ID compliant drone, which I did or whatever.
Yep.
That drone is already good then.
Yeah, there's a column. There's a column when you see your inventory. I'm looking at it right now. There's a column labeled remote ID, and you'll be able to see yes or no, whatever you answered when you registered those drones. So at the moment, we have 5 out of 28 of our drones that are compatible with remote ID. All the other ones are not. And so
you'll be ordering a lot of modules.
Yeah.
That's the conundrum, isn't it? Because I mean, you look behind me and you see all this stuff, and there's drones that I fly once or twice a year. Am I going to buy a separate module for each one of those drones? No. It sounds like I'm going to pay $5 every time I want to fly that drone.
Yep. So,
and I'm on the opposite end of Marcus. I have a few drones, and I think the only drone I have that's not remote ID compliant is the little Altel Nano Plus, and I don't fly that for commercial or anything like that.
That one is remote ID compliant.
So I'm not worried about it.
You're good, Ron, because the Nano's RID compliant, buddy.
Pardon?
You're in good shape because the Autel Nano is remote ID compliant.
And when I last researched it, I couldn't find any place that said that.
Go on the if you look on the FAA website, they've got a whole list.
Oh, okay, I was searching Altel sites,
and it's amazing how many drones are on there now. There's a ton of them.
That's quite a bit, yeah.
Well,
the Nano is on there.
I know for DJI drones, the easy way to check is just when you start up, you kind of can tap the top left-hand side of the screen where it's telling you other information, and that'll tell you if it's broadcasting in remote ID. But right. I cannot find any place on the Anafi that's telling me it's broadcasting in remote ID.
The Anafi is not remote ID compliant. The Parrot Anafi is not.
Oh, I know. I misspoke. Somebody said the Anafi, I got that stuck in my brain. The Nano Plus. I cannot find any place on the Nano Plus that tells me it's broadcasting remote ID, but I can on all my DJI drones that are remote ID compliant.
Autel is weird about that.
That's Autel.
Okay.
Yeah, Autel doesn't tell you that it's broadcasting, except for there's one drone I think we were able to see it in our list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So well that answer, I think that helps a lot of people, and it's good. That's good to know that we have a grace period of until December to re-register those drones for free as remote ID compliant and not have to pay the $5 over and over again. But if somebody has if somebody has a bunch of drones like Marcus, say he's got 20 drones back there, he needs 20? To re-register. That could take a while, right? And just like you, Greg, that could take a while to get them all re-registered.
Yeah. You'd have to go into each of them, turn them on, find the remote ID serial number, and then put that on the FAA website. I'm pretty sure this is why my team has only done 5 of them right now, because I'm pretty sure looking at that list, we have a few more that are compatible. But a lot of our drones are not going to be compatible. Unfortunately, we have Mavic 2 Pro, Mavic 2 Zoom, we have an Inspire 2, we have a Mini 2, we have the Air 2S is good now. We have a bunch of Mini 2s. We have a Japanese Mini 2, a regular Mini 2. We have a Mini. We have a DJI FPV. And we have a bunch of FPV drones that are not going to be compliant unless they have a module on top of it. So yeah, out of 28, there's quite a few that are not going to be compliant out of the box.
And that is you, Greg, and you are motivated. You are a motivated individual to be remote ID compliant. So if we look out at the greater community, what we know is that there's just going to be a lot of people that they may not even know about the regulation.
They don't know.
Or if you're Joe Blow flying your little FPV drone in your backyard, I don't know,
Yep, I agree.
No, like they're not going to know. And even the people who I meet while I'm flying just a drone line, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, like you need to do all this and try to explain that to them.
Yep.
It's just too complicated for someone, for some kid flying a drone around in his backyard.
I agree.
Hey, we got a question from Johnny Dronefly here, and I think I know what he means by the question. Is there an app that will pick up DJI drones as of today? I think he means pick them up as far as see them in the sky remote ID.
Yep. So if you're both on Android and on Apple iOS, the Drone Scanner app was the best app that we tested. And so they just released a version of Drone Scanner for iOS. Either they just released it or I just found it. But I was able to pick it up on Friday when we did our testing, and that's the app that performed the best. And so I would recommend if you wanna see drone, that's the one. On iOS, it's pretty limited. There is only Drone Tag and Drone Scanner that I could find, and Drone Scanner was better. And then Drone Scanner on Android also performed the best. There were two more apps that we tested, and I can't remember their name right now because I don't have my notes. But yeah, the drone scanner app is definitely our favorite pick.
Greg, I have the Drone Scanner app on iOS, and I got it out at the South Florida drone meetup where there may have been 100 drones in the sky at one time, and it didn't see one drone.
Oh, really? Well, I think it may have updated. What's interesting? So I'll tell you the story on that. The reason it did well with our test is because the modules that we tested are all, except maybe one, all Bluetooth modules.
Okay.
Apple does not allow for Wi-Fi scanning. So if you have a Wi-Fi drone, which the DJI drones, I'm 99% sure they're Wi-Fi based technology, you're not going to be able to pick those up using an Apple device. So you'll likely only be able to pick up modules with the iOS app. And then if you want to pick up DJI drones, I think you'll need to get an Android phone.
Oh, wow. So that's going to all the quote unquote Karens that are on iPhones, they're not going to be able to see your, remote ID compliant drone flying around, buzzing around their backyard.
Yep. That's the ones that at least that don't come with the module. So yeah.
Right.
Android and iOS in the US. I know I've said this before and people said that I was lying, but iOS and Android share about 50% each of phones in the United States. It's not true globally. Android is a lot bigger globally, but in the US it's 50-50. It's actually 55-45 for Apple.
It's a good thing I got that backup Pixel 6 to go with it.
Yeah, do some testing. Yeah, do some testing and see what you find. But yeah, my guess is that anybody with a DJI drone is not going to be able to be picked up, because I did the same thing. I had my iPhone out. We were trying to pick up some DJI drones and I never saw them, but we did see a lot of modules. Every single one of them popped up on there because they're all Bluetooth based and not Wi-Fi.
That's interesting. Yeah, interesting. How does remote ID affect drone pilots with a Part 107 license compared or versus hobbyist pilots?
It's the same rules. So what a lot of people don't understand is that a remote ID is not regulation under Part 107, it's under Part 89. And so Part 89 applies to everyone the same. There's no, except for that little part where we said, you don't need a remote ID if you fly a drone sub to 50 grams recreationally. That's the only part really that doesn't apply to a certain portion of the population, but everybody else is affected the same. It is just the way that it is, because it's Part 89 that applies to everyone.
And how does remote ID affect the kind of self-built FPV drone pilot community?
I think that's going to be the community that's going to be the most affected, and I'll tell you for several reasons. One, because I think there's a serious privacy issue with remote ID, and people that fly FPV, either fly by themselves, they're not supposed to, but a lot of people do, or they fly with a visual observer, but they're still under the goggles, and so they wouldn't be able to see somebody coming to bug them. So if somebody found them on remote ID on an app and then wanted to see what they were doing, then they would be basically under the goggles and not be able to see somebody coming to bug them. That's number one. Number two is complicated because it's got to do with the technology. The FAA or Congress or whoever came up with the final ruling of the of remote ID, when they looked at home-built drones, the FAA said a home-built drone is only a drone that is being used for recreational purposes or educational purposes. So why does this matter? It matters because, let's say us at Pilot Institute, we build drones. We build FPV, we build large drones to do testing, to have fun. We build them under Part 107. Well, guess what? That is not considered a home-built drone. And why does that matter? It matters because if it's not a home-built drone, it means it's a manufactured drone. So all of a sudden, it becomes just like a DJI drone or an RTL drone, which means that we have to comply with standard remote ID. Which means what? It means that we need to put a module on top of that drone to broadcast its location. Fine, that's easy. But we also need to broadcast the location of the pilot. Remember, I mentioned that earlier when we started. I said standard remote ID, the difference between standard and module is the fact that the location of the pilot is broadcast at all time. Well, when you build an FPV drone, how do you get the location of the pilot? It doesn't come from the controller because the controller doesn't have GPS capability. So it means that you need to add another GPS something to your controller in order to, if you want to be 100% compliant, and that doesn't exist right now. Nobody has that as a solution.
Yeah, so when you say that, I'm thinking of like movie productions and stuff where they build a cine lifter or those kind of things.
Yep. Yeah, we have a cine lifter that we built. I'm not going to say when, but we built it, and we don't have. There's no available technology right now that is approved by the FAA that we can put on that drone to make it compliant. So if we were to do this today, technically, because we're past September 16, 2022, because that's the manufacturer deadline, that drone needs to be equipped with standard remote ID. But there's no technology that we can buy to make it happen. So we're going to be forced into non-compliance because the technology doesn't exist.
Yeah,
that's a major issue.
I feel the worst for, okay, as a camera drone pilot, it's one thing. I fly Mavics and things like that. So I got to register my drone. However, if you're an FPV pilot, and just like what you're describing, there's those kind of issues. And the guys that have been flying model airplanes for the last 50 years or whatever, all of a sudden they're falling under this kind of onerous regulation. I feel the worst for those two groups in particular.
Yep.
Greg, Chris Hope has a question in the chat, and I think I'm trying to get his wording here. Another question, maybe someone can answer. He still flies with the Go4 app on his Phantom 4 Pro. Will he be able to do remote ID if he's running the Go4 app?
Here's the issue with the Go4 app. So if you remember, the Go4 app was used with the Phantom 4 and the Mavic 2 series, and then they stopped doing that and they came up with the Fly app. Well, back then, this was pre-remote ID with the FAA. This was DJI calling this functionality in their app remote ID. And the problem is that it's still there, and it's not the remote ID that we're talking about today.
Okay.
It's a form of remote identification, if you want to call it that DJI created. So no, unfortunately, the Go4 app, there's no drone that I know of that currently are compliant with remote ID. Now, DJI has said that they would make the Phantom 4 Pro, and there's another one.
The Mavic 2 Pro.
The Mavic 2 Pro, in December. In December.
Yeah.
So again, this is another reason why we want to tell the FAA, hey, you need to push compliance, because even DJI is gonna is going to force people into non-compliance between now and when they release this firmware, because I don't know why they took that long to get it approved, but it is what it is. So what are people going to do? Spend $200 to get a Phantom 4 Pro compliant between now and December for a few months, and then have a $200 piece of hardware that they're never going to use after that. I just don't think it's realistic. So or stop flying or fly illegally, if you want to look at it that way.
Fly against regulations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is a question from the somebody asked me ahead of time on the chat, and I saw Chris Hope among other people asked the chat. They say, what will happen to me if I fly non-remote ID drones without a module, come 9/16? If I fly safely, who will ever know if I have remote ID or not?
I've had this discussion with the FAA, and I'm gonna tell you what came out of that. If you fly safely, nothing is going to happen. Okay. When are you going to get in trouble flying a drone? Quite frankly, take remote ID out of the picture. When are you going to get in trouble with flying a drone? You're gonna get in trouble if you fly too close to an airliner, or too close to a helicopter, or if you put somebody's life in danger, right? Or if you fly inside of a TFR, temporary flight restriction. That's when the FAA is going to be interested in talking to you. So if you plan on doing that and you don't have remote ID and they catch you, yeah, you're definitely going to pay for it. If you're flying safely and you don't have remote ID, I hate to say it, but nothing is going to happen. The FAA is not interested in you for that at all, ever, with remote ID or without remote ID. That just fly safely. That's the bottom line.
Totally agree with that statement.
Good. Now I know Marcus has expressed this opinion before in the past, of worried, and I think you kind of answered the question here. They're worried, with remote ID, people can record these flights or whatever, and they're worried that, like, say, 6 months after you've flown a flight, you'll get a letter from the FAA saying, "Oh, when you flew 6 months ago, you went above 400 feet, or you went beyond line of sight, or whatever." Do you think that's ever going to happen?
No, 100% no. I will not even say 99% no. I will say 100% no. And I'll tell you several reasons why. Okay. There's this technology that's been out for the past 8 years now from DJI that has the ability to pick up and record every single flight that is done by a DJI drone within a certain distance of that device. Okay. It's called Aeroscope. You may be familiar with Aeroscope. Well, Aeroscope is installed in a lot of major cities, and Aeroscope picks up hundreds of illegal flights every single day, massively illegal flight. I'm not talking about going 450 feet instead of 400 feet, and I'm not talking about flying a mile, away from the person. I'm talking about flying 5 miles or 6 miles away and flying at 2,000 feet elevation. I've seen the data myself because I talked to the company that runs some of these, and we made a video about it. They cannot go after the people that have been doing this for the last 7 years. And they cannot go after them because the FAA, the only way they can enforce someone doing something stupid is if they either have a witness that comes up and says, "I've seen them doing this, flying the drone at this specific time," and then the FAA gets a hold of your tracking data and they say, "Okay, well, there was a witness that saw you and then you were flying here and we have the data." Then they can get you in trouble. Or if they catch you in the act, that's the only way that they can get you in trouble. If the FAA receives a pile, which I'm sure they will at first, of data that somebody has recorded and say, "Oh, this person was flying illegally because they went 2 miles away from the controller, and that is impossible to be visual line of sight," give them a citation. The FAA is going to say, we can't give them a citation because we need to put them at the control of the aircraft at that specific time. And that's a very important thing that people forget. The FAA just cannot hand out, and quite frankly, they're not interested in doing that. Again, the FAA is not after the person that's going to be flying their drone for recreational purposes or for Part 107 purposes if they're flying safely. If you fly inside the Super Bowl TFR, if you fly in Class Bravo airspace in Chicago or wherever it is, then yeah, they should be coming after people that do dangerous stuff. But for the average person, remote ID is not going to change the way that you fly.
And I also agree that if a local Karen were to report to the local police, the local LEOs don't have any control over federal law. they're not going to turn it. They turn it over to the FAA. FAA is not going to do anything about it.
They're going to be overwhelmed with
Same
phone
thing,
calls,
you know?
maybe. Yeah, I see law enforcement being overwhelmed with phone calls that are wasting their time going to look for the local person that's complaining about a drone flying. 90% of the time, it's going to be flying legally. They're going to look at this. They're going to do it a couple of times, and then they're going to say, "We're not going to respond to these calls anymore because we're overwhelmed by them." And 90% of the time, they're just not anything we can follow through. So that's why I'm not too worried about that part. The only thing that worries me about remote ID is the location of the pilot being shared and making it easier for people to target the actual pilot. I've been vocal about this since 2019 when the notice of proposed rulemaking came out about remote ID, and even after the final ruling came out, we told the FAA somebody is going to get hurt, whether a thug or a remote pilot or an actual pilot or a recreational flyer, and somebody's going to get hurt. And unfortunately, they didn't change that regulation.
Right. The other
Or minor.
The other aspect is I can say with some confidence that the five of us on this panel, we want to do things legally, right? No matter whether we know the FAA is going to come after us or not, or it's enforceable or not. We're motivated. We want to do things by the book and be legal. And I think it's unfortunate, and this is just a comment on my part, that they're making it difficult, just like what you just described, Greg. And I have friends. I'm not an FPV guy, but I have a lot of friends that are, and they're turning them into outlaws, and they don't want to be, but it's kind of what it comes down to.
Yep, I agree. Sorry, I had to get up. I was getting a cramp in my leg.
It happens.
Does anybody else in the panel have a question for Greg? Marcus?
I've got it. Well, I'm just going to ask you to comment on this, Greg, because I know you're not the FAA and you're not answering anything for the FAA, but something that I kind of thought of, and because you have experience in manned aircraft and drones, it kind of gives you a unique perspective on it that I would like to hear about. So I made some notes here. So recently we've seen a lot of air show accidents. I mean, we had the B-17 in Dallas. Sadly, a lot of loss of life. We had you were at Oshkosh. In Oshkosh, we unfortunately had 4 people. One of them a T-6 trainer, World War II trainer, and then most recently that MiG-23 that fell out of the sky in Michigan. Fortunately, nobody got hurt, but that thing landed in a parking lot of an apartment building. So my comment is this: should the FAA be focusing more on the safety of experimental aircraft and some of these vintage aircraft that are flying at air shows, etc.? People are actually dying. I don't know of anybody that's died from a other than war from a drone yet.
Disregarding the war.
So I'd just like to hear your perspective.
Yes, I think there's definitely. I don't think it's a either or, quite frankly. I think the FAA needs to be focusing on both sides, but I also think the FAA needs to realize that the drone community has been flying for years now. If you just think about Part 107, right, 2016. So we're going on since 2016. That's how long we've had drones flying in the air, quite a bit, for every single day, quite a few flights. Still 0 fatalities. Doesn't mean that we should rest and take that for granted, but that's got to count for something, and continue to do what they're doing with general aviation. There's definitely some reform on the general aviation side that are happening. We always talk about drone rule changes, but general aviation changes as well. They're about to release a new set of rules for people that want to fly aircraft under the sport pilot license. That's a major overhaul, that one of the biggest overhaul I've seen in general aviation in the last 10 years. I mean, I've been in this for 20 years, and in the last decade, this is one of the biggest change I've seen. So there's still changes there from the FAA. I don't think we should stop one side or the other, but I really wish that the FAA would realize that we have a safety track record on the UAS side that's quite stellar. stellar, and that it's time to loosen up some of the rules. And I don't know why they're so reluctant to do that. They say they keep telling us we don't have enough data, so let's collect data and tell them, what's really happening on a daily basis. But yeah, the GA side is definitely always a concern. And I hear these accidents. I have an airplane. Pilot Institute has an airplane that we fly on a regular basis, and we're not immune to seeing everything that happens in the GA community. And the crash at Oshkosh was definitely a close one, because two of our videographers were recording footage minutes before that aircraft went down, and they have pictures of the aircraft right before it went down. And that's we talked to the NTSB when it happened. We provided them the images, and it was quite shocking for them, actually, to see the aircraft and take pictures of it right before they passed.
I just can't imagine. In fact, I was at an air show one time, and I watched one of the Air Force Thunderbirds pancake right into the ground. Pilot ejected. It was okay, but it happens. And that MiG-23 one really got my attention, because it landed they're worried about my little Mavic, and here's a MiG-23 coming down in the middle of a parking lot. Anyway, good answer and good perspective. Thank you.
Johnny Droneflyer has another question in chat, and to Greg. Greg, is there a way to remove a drone off the drone zone that you don't own anymore? And Johnny and I have had a conversation, Greg. What Johnny means is, like, even though you remove you kind of unregistered drone, it still sits in that drone zone. Like, Johnny has more drones that he doesn't own on the list than he does at this point.
Right.
He can't find a way to delete the ones that he doesn't own anymore.
No, you can't delete the record. You can only mark it as sold or destroyed or whatever the options are. Yeah. But no, there's no way to permanently delete it.
And he wouldn't mind if he could just hide it, but it's just, he sees this big list of all these drones he doesn't have anymore that he's sold off.
Yeah, the only way is to sort one of the columns by active or whatever it is. But yeah.
Yeah.
Greg, is there any talk about putting some of this information in the boxes of the drones and stuff to make it easier? I mean, not that you would know, but have you heard anything about this? Because if you're a regular flyer, I bought my so-and-so a drone, you're not going to know any of this.
I've got an opinion about this.
Okay.
I've been pushing now for the past 3 years. I've been pushing manufacturers and the FAA to have a mandatory document. It doesn't have to be complicated. It could just be a link, quite frankly, to the FAA website for trust. That's all I'm asking, is a QR code that you have to scan that takes you to trust, to the main landing page. I don't even care who they take trust with, our website or somebody else. I just want to send people to trust, because trust is the key that has all the information, right? You take trust, you should know how to fly the drone safely. I talked to a manufacturer, which I'm not going to name here, and we made a draft document that had all the information to get to trust. I offered to pay to print the document so it would go in the boxes for the aircraft. It was zero cost to them. We were going to pay for it. And they said, not interested. You know what they asked me? They said, what's in it for us? Oh. That's what they asked me. Right. And then they said, what can you give us? And I said, I'm not making any money from trust, and I'm not. The trust is a 100% free product that we offer on behalf of the FAA. As a matter of fact, it costs us money because we advertise for it to get people to go in there, and we pay to maintain the website, we pay to maintain the server, we pay to do everything, to submit the documents every 30 days. We send the information to the FAA, and even then, that manufacturer asked me, what can you give us? What's in it for us? How much money can we make off of this, when we were going to pay for everything? So that's, I'll get off my soapbox, but that really pissed me off when they told me that.
Start with an S? No,
Actually, it doesn't. Actually, it wasn't them. It wasn't them.
Okay.
Something like that has to be regulated. I mean, the government has to make them do it, because they won't do it if they're not making anything out of it.
Yep. So DJI has
Capitalism.
2 stickers. If you buy a brand new drone from DJI now, there's a sticker from Australia and there's a sticker from the UK, if I remember correctly. They're about yay big. They're smaller than a business card, and they have tiny print that says these are the rules and that you need to follow. Go to this website. That's all I want. That's all I'm asking for, with a QR code in order to go to the Trust website. And I'm guessing, unless the FAA gets involved and create more regulation, I hate more regulation on anything, but this might be the only way that we can get it, to have the manufacturers do it. I'll pay for it. Like, if anybody's listening from any of the big manufacturers, I will pay for that little piece of thing that goes into every single drone. I'll pay for it, and we can get that regulation going.
No, it's great because to Marcus' point, somebody can walk in, Walmart on 9/17, go over to the toy department, grab a toy drone that weighs over 250 grams, and they have no idea that they need a remote. And said the drone's not remote ID compliant. They have no idea they're going to need the module, or they never heard remote ID, and nobody's important. The box isn't informing them. They're getting no information on this whatsoever.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Well, speaking of Holy Stone, I had a commenter on one of my Holy Stone videos say exactly that. They said, "Hey, I went out and bought this drone, and now I found out that it has to have this remote ID module."
Yeah.
He sent it back.
huh.
I mean, lucky you found out.
Yeah.
Soon
yeah.
enough.
Hey, Marcus, Maddie's Drone World says here, and he says the website, and I assume he means the FFA website has the Light and Light Plus and the Nano, but not the No Nano Plus.
I'm willing to bet that. Well, yeah, I don't doubt that, but I can't imagine why one and not the other. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, we'll figure this one out. That's a good thing. Hey, any DeMarco or Mike, do you have any questions for Greg before we let him run here?
I think Greg answered pretty well most of the questions we had.
Greg, show us that tumbler. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'll show it to you if you want.
Okay. I see.
I just built this one right here, which is the Mars rover. I just finished it yesterday, and it's got a tiny drone, so I have to pick it up and show you guys.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it has the
Greg
drone.
is a Batman fan, like most of us.
So this is,
Oh, dude.
Oh, awesome.
That rocks.
and the cool thing about this module is that this thing, you can download an app from Lego, and you can actually fly this thing. Not this thing, but they have an AR version of this thing that you can fly around with the control. It's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool. And then I'll show you the tumbler.
Yeah, we're all just a bunch of big kids, aren't we?
Yeah.
The tumbler.
Yeah, look at that.
And it's.
Oh, dude.
Oh, look at that! Wow.
Oh, check that out.
Yeah.
My son's in the shower. He would love this. Man.
You show the replay.
Oh yeah, I will.
Yeah, it opens.
Oh,
look at
wow.
that.
Holy cow. Yeah.
This is Lego Nation now.
We just got a Lego store about a mile from me now.
Oh, that's dangerous.
It is. Yeah.
So see the SR71 right here. That's not an actual Lego model. I built that one from parts that I bought and from instructions that I found online.
Holy cow.
Man.
Yeah, that one is a bit more difficult to move around, but yeah, it's huge. It's and then they just released, like I was telling you guys before we started, they released a Concorde that's going to be released on Monday. So I'll be buying
There's
that.
a new model plane too, a model RC plane that's a SR71 that came out a couple weeks ago.
Hobby
nice.
Zone.
It's
Hobby
ready
Zone.
to fly. Yeah, it's ready to fly too.
That's awesome.
Correct.
Yeah, I've got-
Right.
Hey,
I've
not
got,
joke related. How's the new baby?
New baby is good. She's giving us trouble sleeping, but that's I guess every baby. She's
Been there.
9 months now. Yeah, we have a 9-month-old, we have a 2-year-old, and a 4.5, almost 5-year-old. So we've been we're busy.
Greg, is there anything that we didn't ask about tonight that you think is important to get out there as far as remote ID compliance and modules? Because we're less than a month away now. Did we miss any topics that should be talked about?
No, I think the only thing we didn't talk about is the FRIA, but there's only one FRIA that's been approved right now, which is an FAA area where you can fly without remote ID. I don't think FRIAs are going to be solving anything, quite frankly. Somebody's asking, will remote ID eventually fail? It certainly looks like it's on a trajectory to do so. I'm just worried that if this fails, how will it be replaced with a different technology that's
Something worse,
way
possibly.
worse?
Yeah.
So asking for remote ID to fail may not be the best thing that we can ask because we don't know what's going to replace it. So it's not going away. I can tell you that. So if it fails under this format, it will come back under a different format that might be a lot worse for us, which might be a network remote ID, which would require a subscription, which would require a lot more expense. I've been against network remote ID for simple operations for a long time. If we want to use it for complex operation beyond visual line of sight, I think it makes sense, but not for visual line of sight operation. So I just hope we're never forced for that to happen because that will be dangerous.
Yeah, I've said for a long time that I'm okay with remote ID in principle, other than like what you described, knowing where the pilot is at. But if it gets me the ability to legally fly extended visual line of sight, man, I'm all in. I'm all for it.
Yeah, there's a concept, and then there's the application, the way that it was done. I think in concept it's acceptable, and the way that it came out is not at the moment. But yeah, well, time will tell. I'll keep doing what I've been doing, which is continue to let the FAA know what the temperature of the room is, because they trust me with that, and then they can do whatever they want with the data at that stage.
Well, that's where I'm just going to say we all owe you a debt of gratitude, Greg, because I know you do a ton of stuff behind the scenes and just coming on shows. I so appreciate you coming on our show like this. It's a big deal, and it helps dispel all the rumors and fantasies, and you shine a light on it, and maybe it's not quite so bad.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I appreciate it.
I mean, yeah, right. Exactly. You break it down to where it's not kind of scary as a lot of people. I mean, I get a lot of questions off air about remote ID, and I can't really answer them all the way, like you can. So it was great to have you on here again, dispel some of the fear in the community that, a remote ID is going to steal the hobby, or, that type of jargon.
Yep. I hope I'm right. We'll find out in a year or two, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as we thought it was.
Agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree too. Yeah, I think September 16th will come, and I won't be doing anything different on the 17th. I am the 16th, whatever. I'll have all my drones re-registered and ready to roll, because I only have to do 4, so it won't take me all day. So,
yeah, lucky you, Ron.
Well,
Look at Marcus.
I think people just got the Air 3 recently, and we clicked the remote ID box when we registered. We're good already, right? I mean, that drone's ready to go.
It's so interestingly, the Air 3 is not approved by the FAA just yet, but I have a hitch that it will be approved by. It's not on the DOC list, which means that it has the technology. I know that it has the technology inside, but they just haven't been approved by the FAA. So I'm pretty sure it's broadcasting already. It's just not technically approved by the FAA. So it's but that's paperwork. If you look at how long it takes the FAA to approve a drone from the time it's submitted, it takes a while. So I'm guessing it will be good by. I hope it's going to be good by the time.
I'll be grounding my new drone right away.
Yep.
Hey, I'm looking in the chat, Greg. Alexis is trying to give you a Bonanza C35.
Oh.
Highlight it, Marcus.
And she's in Texas. Yeah, okay, I'll highlight it here.
If it's free or cheap, we'll take it.
Might have to work for that one. But,
beautiful airplane.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank Greg so much for being our special guest tonight and handling all these questions that are tough for a lot of to answer that don't have Greg's knowledge in this stuff. Thank you so much for your website, your information. Your again, we've already for the DroneNation Deal today was your Part 107 course. It's on sale right now for $159 with a summer sale discount. So yeah. So get over there and look at that course if you're thinking about getting your Part 107. It's a good thing to have. I know
Easy to do.
A lot of the panel have it, and it's good to have it. So, and I also want to thank Michael for joining us tonight as our special guest host, and and of course the regulars. And anybody have anything to say on the way out the door here that special thoughts or anything?
Nope, that's true. Thanks for joining us.
There you go,
boys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Everybody have a good Labor Day holiday next Monday.
Where's Rob?
Plan on it.
Night off, party time.
And thanks to everybody in the chat for joining us tonight. Thanks for all the great questions and comments you had for Greg out there. We really appreciate you all, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Fly safe.
Thanks for having me.
See ya.
Nah.